Hello to all lovers of scary stories. I am your storyteller, Nightfall. Please sit comfortably and grab something to eat, because today I've prepared a few scary stories to help you fall asleep or just chill. Please like the video and subscribe. Also, you can comment down below from where you watch and what time it is. Put on headphones for the best experience. Back to the video. When Cole Harper transferred to Black Hollow University for his final semester, he expected a quiet, uneventful finish to his architecture degree. He didn't expect the registrar's office to put him in the old dorms. "You're in dormitory C, room 313, the clerk had said flatly, barely looking up. "You're lucky. That building's almost closed for renovation. You'll be the only one on the third floor." Cole had asked, "Is that safe?" She only said, "Plenty of history there," with the kind of smile that meant she didn't care enough to lie. Room 313 was the last door at the end of a long, narrow hallway, floorboards warped, overhead lights yellowing and sickly. The room itself was larger than Cole expected. 2 beds, one stripped, a rusted desk, an old closet with a warped sliding door. The window overlooked the campus cemetery, just rows of pale headstones swallowed by fog. A strange quiet lingered in the air, like something was holding its breath. The radiator clanked aggressively at night. At first, he thought that was the worst of it, until he found the scratches. They appeared the third night, thin, deliberate lines along the closet door, 4 long, vertical scrapes, fresh, like whatever made them had sharp fingers. He stared at them under his phone flashlight. They hadn't been there when he unpacked. By the 5th night, he was hearing soft knocking, 3 short taps, always between 2 and 3 a.m. Cole got up once, turned on the light, and opened the door. Nobody. Just the still hallway. But as he turned back, he saw it. A smear of black handprints on the inside of the door. Small, like a child's, wet and glistening. He wiped them. His hands smelled like mildew and rot for hours after. Determined to get answers, Cole explored the basement archives beneath the campus library. There, in a dusty box labeled C Dorm Incidents, he found a collection of notes and faded photographs. One file contained a photo of a girl in a nightgown standing outside room 313. Her face was blurred, eyes too large. No name. On the back, scrawled in faded pen, "Kept waking up outside the room. Said she dreamed of someone knocking from inside the walls." Another note, dated 1977, "Students complain of footsteps, scratching. One jumped from the 3rd floor window, survived but wouldn't speak again." Another, from 1983, "Do not assign room 313. The dreams started the next week. He was always in his bed, that the walls were closer, tighter, breathing. The scratching grew louder, now from inside the closet. When he opened it in real life, it was always empty, but the door seemed to inch open overnight. He once woke to find it wide open. Something inside moved, he was sure. Not scurrying, not wind. Breathing. And sometimes he'd find his things, phone, book, shoes, moved, placed carefully in a line leading to the closet. Then came the voice. It was nearly 3 a.m. when he heard it. "Let me out." A whisper impossibly soft from inside the closet. He sat up in bed, heart slamming. No radio. No prank. The voice came again. "It's so cold in here." Cole approached the closet with the flashlight on. It flickered, died, total black. The closet door slid open on its own, empty at first. But then, he saw it. In the far back, behind hanging coats, there was a hole in the wall, a small square carved like a tunnel. It led into darkness. He backed away, heart racing. He slept with the lights on that night. But in the morning, the light bulbs had shattered. Cole met a campus janitor named Marcus, a man who'd worked there since the 80s. Over coffee and some insistence, Marcus finally spoke. "Room 313? he said. "That place ain't right. They bricked it up in the 90s, but the wall kept moving." "Moving?" Cole asked. "Every time we sealed it, the bricks cracked, like something behind there was pushing out." He said in 1983, a girl named Lisa stayed in the room, started sleepwalking, woke up one night outside in the cemetery, no memory of leaving. She disappeared 2 days later. Only trace left was her photo and deep scratches on the inside of the closet. Cole couldn't resist. That night, he moved the coats, took a flashlight, and crawled into the tunnel. It stretched further than seemed architecturally possible. The air was ice, the walls were narrow, inscribed with more scratches, shapes like faces. After what felt like minutes, the tunnel opened into a cramped chamber between walls. There was a mattress, stained, moldy. Children's drawings on the wall, stick figures with black mouths hanging from ceilings. In one corner, a small wooden box. He opened it. Inside was a human tooth and a photo of himself. But his eyes in the photo were gone, scratched out, fresh. Something whispered behind him. Cole tried to move back through the tunnel, but the entrance was gone. He clawed at the wall. No give. He was trapped in the chamber. The light began to flicker. In the dark, something moved. He heard a soft giggle, a woman's voice, overlapping, layered with children's laughter. Then a scream, not loud, but muffled, like someone had screamed into dirt. Then it was behind him, breathing against his neck. He collapsed, unconscious. He awoke in bed. The closet door was shut, lights on. He gasped, hands shaking. But everything was back to normal, except his photo, taken years ago with his dad, was pinned to the wall, scratched. And now, both their eyes were missing. Cole packed to leave. He could no longer sleep, could barely eat. He'd leave Black Hollow, fail the semester, just get away. But as he opened the door, he saw the hallway stretch longer than before. Dim, endless. He turned around. The closet door was open again. A shadow stood inside. Not tall, small, female. The girl from the photo. She stepped out. Her face was blurred, no eyes, just hollow sockets. She reached for him. "Stay," she whispered. "You're ours now." The lights exploded. The door slammed shut. They found Cole's room empty. No signs of struggle. Just the closet door hanging open. The administration sealed room 313. Again. But now, sometimes, students say, you can hear scratching in the walls of dormitory C. And if you're in the hallway late at night, you might see a door that wasn't there yesterday. Sometimes, it opens. Story 2. When my grandfather died, he left me something peculiar in his will. Not money, not land, but a key. It was old, rusted brass with teeth worn dull, tied to a tag that read only Raven's Hollow. I had never heard the name before. My mother looked visibly uncomfortable when I asked her. "You don't need to go there," she said. "Let it be." But curiosity has a way of gnawing at the brain like moths in wool. The more I thought about it, the more I needed to know. A week later, I was on the road. Armed with my backpack, a flashlight, and the cryptic key, I drove into the mountains of West Virginia. After hours of winding roads and unreliable GPS signals, I found a gravel path that branched off the main road. A rusted sign, almost swallowed by overgrowth, barely displayed the words Raven's Hollow. The path led deeper into the woods until even the sunlight seemed reluctant to follow. Eventually, I reached a clearing, and there it was, an ancient log cabin, sunken slightly to one side as though the forest itself was trying to reclaim it. I stood staring for a long time before unlocking the door. It clicked open easily, almost too easily for something that had been left alone for who knows how long. The air inside was dry, musty, but not as suffocating as I expected. Dust covered everything: wooden furniture, An old stone fireplace, books that looked older than me. There were no lights, no electricity, but the late afternoon sun filtered through the windows. I decided to stay the night, both out of necessity and sheer morbid interest. I laid my sleeping bag on a rug in front of the fireplace and explored a little more. That's when I found the notebook. It was under a loose floorboard beneath the bed. Leather-bound and brittle with age, it had belonged to my grandfather. The first page read, "If you're reading this, it means I've failed to destroy it." What followed was a scattered collection of journal entries detailing my grandfather's visits to the cabin. It started benignly enough, hunting trips, starry nights, isolation. But then, around the fourth or fifth entry, the tone shifted. Something watches from the tree line. Never comes close, just stands there. No animal I know walks like that. Dreams are getting worse. I see the cabin rotting and fast forward. Then I wake and it's fine. But sometimes, something feels wrong. I closed the journal. My pulse throbbed in my ears. The sun was beginning to dip. As darkness crawled in, I built a fire in the fireplace. It was quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no rustling of trees, not even crickets. Just the pop and crackle of fire. Around midnight, I was awoken by a sound. A creak. Floorboard. Inside the cabin. I sat up, heart hammering. The fire was just embers now. I grabbed my flashlight and swept the beam across the room. Empty. The door was still locked. Then I heard it again, this time from the back room, the one I hadn't explored yet. I stood up slowly, every nerve in my body screaming not to. The room was just a small storage area, shelves, cobwebs, dust, and a mirror. It was tall, antique, and wrong. The glass looked warped, like water had spilled into its reflection. I moved closer, and for a moment, I thought I saw something move inside it. Not behind me. In the mirror. A flicker of shadow, long limbs, no face. I backed away. That night, I barely slept. In the morning, I told myself it was a dream. I packed up and decided to leave. The forest, however, had other plans. The path I had driven in on, gone. Gone. Overgrown with thickets and trees that looked like they'd been there for years. I walked for hours, GPS useless, compass spinning. No cell signal. Eventually, I returned to the cabin. On the door, scratched deeply into the wood, was a single word, "Stay." I didn't write it. That night, I read more of the journal. My grandfather had tried to burn the cabin once, according to one entry. He poured kerosene, struck a match, and the fire went out. Just snuffed itself out, like someone blew on it. "It feeds off something," he wrote. "Maybe loneliness, maybe memory, maybe me." That night, I didn't light the fire. I didn't want to draw it near. Still, I heard it, whispers low and croaking, crawling through the cabin like insects. "You open the door. We see you. Closer." At one point, I looked out the window. It was standing at the edge of the forest. No face, just a smooth head and elongated limbs, arms too long, fingers curled like broken twigs. It didn't move, just stood there, watching. On the third day, I found the basement. There wasn't supposed to be a basement, but when I moved the old rug, I discovered a trap door, locked from the inside. The key, the one my grandfather left, fit perfectly. The stairs creaked as I descended, flashlight trembling in my hand. The air was freezing, filled with mildew and rot. The walls were covered in carvings, symbols, names, scratch marks, and in the corner, a figure. Not moving, not breathing, just there. Wrapped in cloth, bound in chains, like a human cocoon. It shifted as I approached. Not dead, alive, and whispering. He fed me to it. He thought it would stop. I ran, back into the woods, past where the road should have been, until my legs gave out and my lungs were on fire. But the forest was endless, a loop, every tree a clone of the last. I collapsed and cried until night came. That night I had the worst dream of all. I saw the cabin from above, like a bird or like a god looking down. The trees moved like tentacles, the roof opened like a mouth, and inside, a flickering of souls, trapped, twisting, lost. I saw my grandfather, young, scared, swinging an axe at the mirror. I saw me, standing in front of it, smiling. When I awoke, the journal was gone. In its place was a new notebook, blank. The first page had a note in unfamiliar handwriting. Your turn. I don't know how long I've been here now. The sun still rises and sets, but I think time works differently here. Sometimes the mirror shows me places I recognize. My childhood home, my mother crying, my own funeral. Sometimes it shows nothing. But always, always it calls. And every night, it comes closer. The thing from the woods. If you ever find this story, if you find this cabin, do not open the door. Burn this place if you can. Don't let it remember you, because once it does, it never forgets.
Story 3. When Hannah discovered she'd inherited Hawthorne House, she felt the same thrill she'd had as a kid when winning the neighborhood scavenger hunts. Except this was real, and it came with remnants of mystery. The letter arrived one rainy spring morning. Her grandmother's handwritten words were elegant, cautious. No mention of why the house was left to her, but the implication was clear. It was hers now. She arrived at Hawthorne on the first evening of June. The house crouched on a hill overlooking the town, a sprawling Victorian with faded trim, shuttered windows, and creeping ivy. Inside smelled of must and memories. Dust motes danced in the ceiling light. Hannah ran her hand along the banister and felt a tingle. Not cold, but a wakeful murmur, like the house chimed in response. Key in hand, she turned to the foyer mirror and met her own reflection. But not quite. Her eyes looked tired, the corners of her lips pulled downward. She felt a subtle shift, like something in the silence was listening to her heartbeat. That first night, the house announced itself. At 2:17 a.m., there came a thud. Not a real estate frog, but a distinct, heavy step upstairs. Then another. Then two. A pause, then two more. 3 sets of footsteps from the guest room overhead, pacing. Step, step, pause. Step, step. Hannah froze under her blankets, fighting every instinct to flee. Her heart pounded in the thick dark. She reached for her phone and watched, 7% battery, then kept it entirely still. When the steps stopped, a soft whisper drifted down the hall. She's here now. She darted from her bed, switching on every lamp. The hallway light flickered bright. Upstairs, empty. Guest's bed unmade, sheets rumpled, no sign of anyone. In the mirror, she caught the corners of her reflection, brief, sideways, seen peripherally, in the doorway. She spent the following days uncovering more strange signs. Faint footsteps in half-damp areas of carpet. A child's hymn murmured low near the pantry. No TV on. Door latches, the one she had closed, found open. She found a box of photos in the attic, yellowed and curled. Most were innocuous, weddings, beaches, birthday cakes, until she found one of herself, standing in front of Hawthorne House. But the year was 1974. The clothes were vintage. The house looked tidier, but unmistakably the same. She wears the same dress that she wore on graduation night. Her hands shook. She replayed the photo, examining. In the mirror of the yard stood someone else, just behind her, but for the blurred shape. No one had been there to take the picture. Later that night, she saw it clearly, standing behind her reflection. That was the moment she finally believed it. She dug through musty town archives and old newspapers, learning that Hawthorne House had a reputation. Built by the Hawthorne sisters in 1870, it changed hands many times, always after unexplained disappearances within. The most notorious claim involved Lydia, a housemaid who vanished in 1922. Fear became legend when subsequent owners reported whispers in the darkness, small footprints appearing by children's beds, and reflections that moved without a human occupying them. Some left Christmas trees burning in 1965, calling the fire
a way to burn the voices out. They failed, but fled. Now the house was hers. On a sleepless night, she discovered how easily Hawthorne reported her. She'd been listening to rain through the bedroom window when a sudden gush of static came through her phone's speaker. She slammed it closed and threw it across the floor, only to hear it, a whisper, childlike. Sasha. The wind carried daughter's name from nowhere. She locked every door, drawer, window. The presence shrugged. The following day, she painted over everything, but the sparse few hours later she pulled off wallpaper from the stairwell and discovered a child's scrawl. Sasha is mine. Hannah found a bound journal in the library, handwritten by Sarah Hawthorne. It spoke of integration. The house wants a soul. It must bond with someone to survive. It collects remnants. Hawthorne wanted to purify it. She wrote about ringing bells, crosses at windows, burning sage. Her final entry, dated 1923. It watched. I ran. The doors locked. The house ate my breath. I'm sorry. On a night stormier than any local weather report, Hannah prepared herself. Candles, sage, salt lines along doors, bells on windows. At midnight, the house awoke. Lights blinked, the walls flexed, every creak stung. She chanted everything Sarah wrote, loud, fierce, desperate. Hawthorne House, be undone. Oh, spirits, leave this place. Let me go free. She walked into every corner, chanting. The floorboards trembled beneath her. She did not stop. Then, even the candles went out. All lights blackened. In the utter dark, she heard singing. Soft, a lullaby. A child's voice. Hush now, mother. Stay with me. Her candles relit. Bedroom lights flickered. Upstairs, the guest room door swung open. There, in bed, laying like a child, was her, with the same dress, pale, eyes blank. Her mouth moved, non-human but earnest. We tried to keep her. Her voice was not her voice, yet it was. She stepped forward, the house whimpering behind. She chose this home, it said. We choose her to stay. She touched Hannah's cheek. At first, she didn't want to. Then she learned. No one leaves now. Hannah collapsed backward. 6 this morning, the phone buzzed in her coat pocket. Her sister's face appeared as video. Hannah, it's 3 p.m. What's wrong? She stared, uncomprehending. Let me go free. What? The house. Take me. The connection died. She dropped the phone. There, on the floor near her, was the mirror frame, new, with an empty space. Her form. She'd been standing there when the screen blinked. Sunlight poured in. She looked to the guest room, empty. She looked behind, empty hallways. Her car keys jingled. She drove off alone. 3 months later, Hawthorne House still sits on Graven Hill, a for sale sign planted, a neat gain on the real estate listing. Hannah rents a small city apartment. She sleeps with bells again. She never leaves mirrors uncovered. She hears it sometimes, in streams, cupboards, backyard rain. Sasha, or stay. When she swallows, she tastes ash. At times, the reflection gives back a small shape behind, eyes like candles. They say it is still learning. She never left.
Story 4. We start with a letter, an actual physical envelope that arrived in Daniel's mailbox one rainy Thursday afternoon. In the age of emails and instant messaging, handwritten mail was a rare thing. Even more peculiar, it had no return address. The envelope was cream-colored, the ink a deep red that almost looked like it had bled into the paper. His name was written in perfect cursive, Daniel Everett.
Inside was a folded letter on thick paper. Dear Mr. Everett, you are cordially invited to spend one night at Willowmere Estate, your late great-uncle Harold's property. As the last surviving relative, the estate now legally belongs to you. To finalize the inheritance, one night of occupancy is required. Please arrive before sunset. Sincerely, J. Whitmore, Solicitor of Wills. Daniel barely remembered Uncle Harold. Maybe a man he'd met once as a kid, a recluse who lived somewhere deep in the mountains, they said. He figured the letter was a joke or some convoluted inheritance formality. But he was curious. So 2 days later, Daniel drove 5 hours out of the city, through winding forest roads and into the mist-shrouded foothills of Oregon. When he finally reached Willowmere Estate, dusk was falling. The house looked like something from a Victorian nightmare, towering gables, cracked shutters, and windows like dark, watching eyes. Vines clung to the stone walls, the air was heavy, no birds chirped, no wind stirred. He stepped out of his car and felt it immediately, that strange pressure, like the atmosphere itself was heavier on this land. He hesitated, then pushed open the rusted iron gate and made his way up the gravel path to the enormous oak door. It opened before he could knock. No one was there. The inside was just as you'd expect. Creaking floors, antique furniture covered in dust sheets, a chandelier that swayed slightly though there was no breeze. Daniel flicked on the lights. Somehow the old wiring still worked. The bulbs buzzed to life, casting flickering light down the halls. He found a note on a table in the foyer. Stay the night. Leave at dawn. Do not answer if they knock. He assumed this was more of the inheritance game, or maybe part of some family tradition. Maybe Harold was eccentric in his will. He explored. The living room was a museum of time. Taxidermied animals, faded portraits, and a grand piano with keys stained yellow. Upstairs were bedrooms, some clearly untouched for decades. He chose the smallest room, somehow instinctively avoiding the master bedroom at the end of the hall. Night fell fast. By 11 p.m., Daniel had grown uneasy. The silence was overwhelming. Every tick of the old grandfather clock in the hallway seemed louder than it should have been. He sat on the couch in the drawing room, trying to distract himself with an old book from the shelf. Then came the knock. It was soft, deliberate. Not at the front door, but the back, the kitchen door that led out to the overgrown garden. He froze. Then another knock. And then again, louder. He waited. The knocking stopped. But an hour later, it came again. From the front door this time. This time, it was accompanied by a voice. Let us in, Daniel. He dropped the book. How did they know his name? He crept upstairs and locked the bedroom door behind him. That night, he did not sleep. At 3:12 a.m., Daniel heard it. A low whispering, like a conversation held just behind the walls. Male and female voices, murmuring in tones too low to make out. He pressed his ear to the wallpaper. Nothing. Then came a single voice, right beside his ear, as if someone were standing behind the wall. It's rude not to answer the door, Daniel. He bolted from the bedroom. He was done. Inheritance or not, he was getting out. He ran downstairs, but the front door wouldn't open. The lock turned, but the door wouldn't budge. Panicked, he tried the back door. Same thing. He even tried to smash a window with a chair from the dining room, only to watch as the glass rippled like water and absorbed the impact with a muffled thud. He wasn't in a house. He was in a trap. The house was alive, and it was waiting. Daniel remembered the master bedroom. Something told him that if he wanted answers, he had to go there. He made his way down the hall, each step heavier than the last. The door to Harold's room groaned as it opened. The room was pristine. No dust, no decay, as though someone had cleaned it just that day. In the center of the room was a writing desk. On it sat dozens of letters, each addressed to different names. Daniel sifted through them. They were all the same, word for word, like the letter he'd received. Each letter promised an inheritance. Each letter asked the recipient to stay one night, and each one was never mailed. He turned toward the far corner of the room where an armoire stood slightly ajar. Inside were coats, dozens of them, men's and women's, all modern, all in good condition. Then, beneath them, a pair of shoes he recognized. They were his. He hadn't noticed they were missing. His heart pounded, his breath quickened. Then, from behind the bed, a shape stood up. Daniel screamed. It was Harold, or what remained of him. The figure was tall, thin, his face sunken, gray, eyes completely black. He didn't move with human motion. It was more like he floated. Harold opened his mouth, and from it came hundreds of voices, all speaking at once. "Join us." Daniel fled. As he ran down the stairs, the house began to shift. The walls stretched, doors disappeared, hallways looped. It was no longer a building. It was a maze. At every corner he heard them, the ones who knocked. Soft, shuffling footsteps, fingertips trailing across wallpaper. Sometimes they were children, sometimes they laughed. He stumbled into the library, one he hadn't seen before. On the floor were dozens of old cell phones, all of them powered on, all of them blinking, voicemails. He picked one up and pressed play.
"Help, someone. It won't let me leave. Please."
Another phone.
"I tried the door. It won't open. My name is Rebecca Mayfield. If anyone hears this..."
Another.
"It feeds on us. Every night. I see them. The ones who didn't make it."
Daniel dropped the phone and screamed. Then, he saw the mirror. It hung on the far wall. He walked toward it and realized his reflection wasn't moving with him. The reflection stared at him. Then, it smiled. It opened its mouth.
"There is no inheritance. Only invitation."
Then the mirror shattered.
Somehow he made it back to the front hallway. The grandfather clock struck 6. And just like that, the front door creaked open. Cool morning air drifted in. Light spilled across the floor. Daniel didn't hesitate. He sprinted outside, down the gravel path, across the iron gate. He didn't look back. 3 weeks later, back in the city, Daniel received a certified letter in the mail. This time with a return address. J. Whitmore, Solicitor of Wills. Inside was a single sentence. "Another guest is on the way. We thank you for keeping the door ajar." Daniel threw it in the fire. But every night he hears knocking. And sometimes it's from inside the walls.